What's up, everyone? We've been telling you guys time and time again this week that this week is the week of opportunity, and I'll tell you, I saw a bunch of you guys crush it today in the Discord. We had so many awesome plays, especially from yesterday's video, and even if you haven't been able to capitalize on this awesome movement so far, don't worry, we got you covered with some more awesome plays for tomorrow. We have some giant things to cover. The market's going to be very exciting tomorrow, so make sure to watch to the end of today's video. We have some awesome setups to hopefully turn your week to the green in a major way. But with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, the market this morning opened up very shaky, Mike. We saw the S&P 500 selling off, but then we actually saw a big recovery midday. The SPY broke the high of yesterday, and then we just started trading in that channel that we've, had posted here on the chart for the past few weeks. We've had these support and resistance levels on here for a while. We saw a few bounces down there, and I think the biggest news of the day, Mike, was Nvidia. They had a terrible drop-off early in the morning. AMD did as well, as the chip stocks had some bad news. Even MU, which is killing it right now on earnings and after hours, had a pretty bad drop down this morning, as it looks like they're actually looking to ban or have more restrictions on their AI chip exports to China. And one bad thing that I read is that Nvidia actually already created a weaker version of their A100 chips for China, but now with these new restrictions, they're actually going to have to scrap that or weaken it even more now to make it fit the criteria. So very interesting here what they're doing with these chip stocks, and they're doing it at just the right time, Mike. I don't know if Biden's friends bought up some puts on Nvidia or what, but I don't know. This timing seems awfully good with how high they are.
Yeah, looking at Nvidia's chart, basically that thing has been an unlimited money printer this year. It just keeps going higher and higher and higher and higher. And the US government basically punched Nvidia right in the face today. Just like Tom said, anytime you have more, I guess you could say, increased regulations on selling the chips that you make, that is not a good sign, especially for a chip maker like Nvidia. And what I thought was, I guess you could say, the most comical and the biggest punch in the face to Nvidia was how, just like you said, Nvidia purposely designed a new chip that'd be able to be sold to China, but under these new regulations, they still wouldn't even be able to sell that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really bad there. They've probably been spending a bunch of money on researching and developing that new chip, and now they have to go through with a different one. So I'm curious to see what happens. Now, we will have to say this is just considerations. It's not necessarily done yet. So keep that in mind. They might not actually even do it. And who knows, maybe China or maybe some of these companies will start to lobby some people in government. Maybe that'll change their minds, if they get some good vacations or something. You never know. I know that stuff happens quite a bit in our government. So I'm curious to see what happens, Mike, but I know that that's definitely bad news. And looking at these charts like Nvidia on the daily, man, it's so rough right now. Today was actually good. We had a green day on the chart, but it was a red day overall, closing down 1.81%. And man, if we start to fill this gap, that's going to be brutal there if we get some bad news coming in.
Tom, I don't know if hell froze over or what happened, but I can't even believe we're talking about Nvidia in a somewhat bearish way. I guess it takes the government banning their products to finally get Nvidia to fall. But then again, it's like it barely fell today. It was crashing in pre-market, and it was basically green from open all day long. So we'll see what happens, but either way, this is some pretty big news for Nvidia. But I also have some even crazier news. I was looking at this chart today that shows the performance of the Nasdaq for its first half, and the Nasdaq is actually on pace for its third best first half of the year since 1983. Believe it or not, the Nasdaq performance we're seeing right now is one of the best on record. And when you compare that to last year's first half, it was a bloodbath. So it's great to see a great start so far, but I feel like we can't celebrate yet because, it doesn't always end how it starts.
Yeah, and look at that in 1983. There's actually a big red candle. Then we had that big jump in the first half of 83, and then it looks like in 84 we had a pretty bad first half there. So that's very interesting to me to see that happen. I wonder if we'll start to go red in the first half of this next year, or maybe even at the end of this year. Yeah, it's hard to say, Mike, but that is definitely very interesting to see that it's the best first half in what is that, almost 30 years or something? That's a long time, Mike.
40 years, we'll call it, almost, like, yeah, basically exactly. But yeah, it's definitely great to see stocks moving the way they are. And when you think Nasdaq and you think tech stocks, there's one powerhouse that comes to mind instantly, and that's good old Apple. And believe it or not, Apple is actually nearing the $3 trillion market cap threshold. It's just under it, but it's crazy to think about, a huge company like Apple is just so close to breaking this threshold.
Exactly, and guess what? That's the biggest position by our guy Warren Buffett too. Berkshire has been running off of Apple pretty much for the past however many years with that position that they've had. And man, it just goes to show the king Warren Buffett isn't wrong again. Apple's up there continuing to show its dominance in this market, and I think that we'll be at that $3 trillion mark here very, very soon, Mike. They have these headsets coming out. They're even coming out with new iPhones eventually here soon as well. They have a bunch of big stuff in store, and I love them as a company for innovating. It seems like they always get into the game. They had the iPads. They revolutionized that in a big way. Now I think they're going to be revolutionizing things with their headsets. It's one of the best companies out there. I'll be honest, I'm not a buyer up here, but if it dips down and we see, maybe that recession come in later this year, then I'll go ahead and think about it. If maybe it gets down to a big support, maybe like 170 or 150, something like that, I'll definitely take a look at it.
Good stuff. And while Apple is, awesome to look at, it's also worth covering some other stocks that are moving in a major way right now. So looking at this other chart that basically shows the 52-week highs and lows for the S&P 500, I always love to see where the money's flowing, right? I want to know where the inflows are going into and what people are selling. And basically what this chart shows is where exactly that. It shows you the stocks that are making, 52-week highs and stocks that are lingering right at their 52-week lows. Essentially with this chart, you want to look in like the top right section because that shows you exactly where the money has been flowing. And you could see, of course, you have stocks like Nvidia and Meta and Tesla and stuff like that. But some stocks that have been moving to the upside in a major way recently that don't have I wouldn't say the same level of hype as some of these big tech stocks are cruise lines, believe it or not. So CCL and RCL have been blasting, and I mean blasting to the upside in a major way lately. They're up like hundreds of percent, and they're moving with some power. And just a couple months ago, Tom, I should say last year, Carnival Cruise Lines was at 40-year lows or something like that, and they're back with some vengeance.
They really are. I mean, look at that daily chart here. That is amazing. And today they had another 8% move. They broke that recent high, which was awesome. I thought maybe they would have some consolidation there, have some problem breaking out. But no, they said, F you, Tom, I'm going right through there. So they flew right through 1650. That was a fantastic run by them. I will say I'm definitely eyeing up some levels on this stock as it's rising because I've been keeping my eye on them with this big move and with this breakout. I'm noticing some supports coming up right around this $18 mark. There's definitely a lot of resistance right there. I also see a pretty big one up around 19 and then 20. So we'll have to keep our eyes on this one, but it's definitely fun right now, and they just keep going up. I will say, Mike, that chart is very interesting to see. I would not have expected these two stocks to be up here. I guess they are big movers, but like you said, they're just not talked about, especially compared to Nvidia, but, even like Meta and Netflix, they're just nothing compared to those tech stocks.
Exactly. And what really excites me about CCL and RCL is let's say you look at the chart of CCL for 1 second and let's say you go to a max weekly chart. You can see this thing has not had a straight line up by any means. Literally in 1988, this stock was trading for $2, and then eventually in 1994, actually in 1993, the stock was trading for around $8. It went all the way up to $72 in 2018, and then it came crashing all the way back down to 8. So it's had a really tough ride, but it's coming back with some vengeance, like I said. And the travel industry's been picking up. I know a lot of people have not been on cruises because of everything that happened over the past 3 years with COVID and everything. So I really do like the risk reward scenario here, and it's good to see some great movement out of this industry.
Yeah, and we're getting back into these summer months, and that's whenever these companies, do pretty well. I know that they do okay over the winter. People like to travel for, Christmas and stuff like that. But, during the summer, I mean, that's obviously whenever you get a lot of people traveling, going out there and getting things out there like that. So I like it. And, these swings in the past are no slouch, Mike. Like, I bet you a lot of people were freaking out back whenever it fell down to $18 to $20 in 2002, 2003, but then it ripped right back up to $50, $60. So, it just goes to show, you buy low, you sell high, right? I know it sounds easy to say. I think I've heard that since I was in the 3rd grade, Mike, buy low, sell high, but a lot of people just like to chase what's high, like Nvidia and stuff like that right now. And I think Carnival might be a pretty good one that still has room to go.
Tom, what about Wall Street bet style? Buy high and sell low, baby. Let's go.
GameStop all day. I'm buying it at 500, Mike.
Oh, gosh. Alrighty. So, speaking of some crazy meme-type stocks, how can we not talk about SPCE, Tom? I know you've been pretty excited with some news around this one, so fill us in.
Yeah, Virgin Galactic, they're going to be having their first commercial launch coming out tomorrow, guys. Be ready for it. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be watching this one. Check out StockedUp Live on YouTube. I'll actually be covering Powell tomorrow as well. He's going to be speaking. Oh, actually, I won't be covering him, Mike. He actually speaks like really, really late tonight. We'll cover it in just a couple minutes, but I will have this flight on the StockedUp Live YouTube channel if you guys want to check that out. I'll be covering it there and definitely watching SPCE stock, but it's going to be a really fun event. I will say, though, there is a lot of risk with this. So if you guys are looking to try to trade SPCE or something like that, just be very, very careful. This stock is extremely volatile, and one problem is that everybody's like, well, I'm buying it because of the launch. But what happens if, like, the launch goes bad? What if an engine malfunctions? What if etc.? What if they have to, some bad weather comes in? There could be all types of stuff that ruins this momentum, but if it goes well, maybe expect some uptrend. That was a pretty big move today. Ran up 9%. I know a lot of people traded it after we talked about it yesterday, too.
So I'm going to say the same thing I said yesterday. For SPCE, if you can't handle the heat, then get out of the kitchen. Like right now, basically this stock is as volatile as they come. Obviously, there's some huge news with it. If everything goes great, the stock can blast. But it's even possible that things can go great and the stock can tank if there's like a huge offering or if, whatever reason. It's hard to say. But this stock is very crazy. It moves a lot based off of news. At this current level, I like the risk. It's sitting right around, you could say $4.75. In the past, it's been as high as like 63. It's a volatile stock, but the main thing with this one is just like news, momentum, maybe some price target upgrades, maybe some insider buys, stuff like that can really make it blast. And I just think the overall risk-reward scenario is pretty good. Like, let's say things go horrible. Maybe the stock loses 50% of its value over the course of, like, multiple weeks. But maybe if things go good, maybe it rises by a lot more. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's pray that they're not using any Logitech controllers on this one, Mike. I mean, they're going out into space here. I'm not going to lie. Their ship... It doesn't look like the most sophisticated thing out there. It kind of reminds me of that that submarine in a way. So there better not be no Logitech controllers here, else I'm selling tomorrow.
I'm like being dead serious, Tom. Like I wonder if like the people who are about to board this spacecraft, like I would imagine that they get a little bit spooked out from what happened with the submarine. It's like these like ultra rich like tourism type things. Like let me spend $250,000 to view the Titanic, and this $450,000 flight right here that lasts I think like 90 minutes. Like I'd be pretty spooked out if I was on this flight.
Yeah, like what if something goes wrong and then they can't like enter back into the atmosphere correctly, or like they venture out, or something weird happens. I mean, I'm sure some scientist is going to correct me in the comments, like they can't get out of the atmosphere or something, but who knows? There's all types of stuff with aircraft. So I'm praying for everyone involved. I hope it goes well though, and if it does, that stock you would think would get some good momentum here, as long as you said there's no offerings or anything. I know this company's done some offerings in the past, and maybe they'll do an offering, though, after it goes up. That would make more sense.
That'd be a buzzkill. It's like great news happens, and then they're just like, Sucks for you guys. We're gonna sell some more shares, dilute you guys. But again, we'll see what happens. But on another note that's a little bit scary, here is a chart of the liquidity of the stock market right now. And it might seem a little bit complicated, but I'm gonna break it down in a nice and easy way. Essentially, what we have in the red line is the liquidity for the market. Generally speaking, the more liquidity there is, the easier it is for stocks to go up and for the money printer to just keep on printing. But when liquidity dries up and it comes down, it just squeezes the whole financial system. So in 2022, we saw that money vacuum or that squeeze happen as liquidity dried up. Now, what was interesting is nobody was expecting there to be giant bank failures in March of this year, but there was, and the Feds increased liquidity again and basically pumped the market again. But what's very interesting is that most of the time when liquidity goes up, stocks go up, and when liquidity goes down, stocks go down. What's happened over like the past couple weeks and months is stocks have been going up like there's no tomorrow, but liquidity is going up a little bit, but it's actually falling. Like, for example, like we could see liquidity had its high back in March, and then it's been like falling ever since, where stocks have been just going up nonstop, and we're seeing like a divergence here. So if liquidity continues to go down, that can mean some pretty bad news for stocks.
Yeah, and you would expect this to, historically, at least on this chart, looking back at the past couple of years, it's never really been this far apart without coming back to some type of, equilibrium. So I would definitely expect maybe the market to come back down a little bit. Maybe that liquidity, maybe it'll come back down towards that liquidity level. And I'm really curious to see what the Feds do regarding with liquidity towards the end of this year. We have a lot of things where we've heard Powell mention mild recessions coming later in the year. I know they talked about that a lot today at the European Central Bank Forum. I know Biden even mentioned stuff like that today. So it's very interesting to me. And I know that they're taking the approach of, looking at all the economic data and stuff, and they're really taking their time with it. But I'm curious to see what they do. A lot of people argue that they might increase liquidity towards the end of this year because they were decreasing it a lot last year. But there's some people who say they might keep decreasing it because, why are they decreasing it, Mike? To fight that inflation. And I think that's going to be the big thing there. Like, is inflation still much too high? I think it is. And a lot of people out there think it is too. If you think it's too high, let me know in the comments down below.
If you don't let Tom in the comments down below, you're crazy. Inflation's definitely still too high. But hey, it has improved a lot since its peak. So that is interesting there. But on another scary note, Tom, we actually have corporate bankruptcies surging right now. So as interest rates have been rising, it has put a lot of pressure on so many companies, especially the smaller ones, and it has influenced everything from mortgage rates to auto loans to literally everything else in the financial system. And some companies can't take it. We've seen corporate bankruptcies just surging right now, and it looks like at least for this 4-week moving average, it's at the same level it was right when COVID hit. So it's not good.
And not even just the level COVID hit. Look back at 08 and 09. It's actually at almost the same level it was back then even. So that is scary to see, actually. And wow, you wouldn't think that would be the case right now whenever you look at the stock market, but maybe that'll be our hint that something's about to change. And, just looking at the number, Mike, I mean, that's pretty scary to see, going all the way back to 08 and 09. And I know that that's just a pretty scary thing. Corporate bankruptcies are very important, that's a very big statistic. And you can tell that every single time that number's been high, we've seen a crash. So I don't know, buckle up your seatbelts, guys. That's a pretty scary chart.
Well, some great news that should alleviate a ton of pressure is Biden actually said that he does not expect a recession, and he says the U.S. economy is very strong. So, guys, we have nothing to worry about. Forget the corporate bankruptcy data. Forget the liquidity discrepancy data. Forget all the other stuff. We're all good.
Yeah, come on, man.
All right, so that is that, Tom. But let's get right into some setups for tomorrow. Let's get right into what everyone wants to hear about. And one stock I'm watching very closely is Lucid. So I've been talking about this stock all week long, and it has been moving to the upside in a pretty good way. Nothing like too crazy today, but still pretty respectable. They had some solid news yesterday with a huge investment by the Saudi Arabian government. And then they also had some good news on Monday with a partnership with Aston Martin. The stock's moving to the upside in a good way. Good volumes flowing in. The risk-reward scenario is great. And I'm a pretty big fan of Lucid going forward. I think there's an awesome risk-reward scenario. And, if things go great, this thing can really run.
I'll tell you what, if you watched last night's video and you did not make a play on Lucid this morning, you missed out. That thing was awesome. We were talking about it on the live stream. Manny in the Discord killed it with Lucid today. So I love it, Mike. Lucid really kept going up. I think it can really keep going. That was a huge move by the Saudi PIF. That is a humongous thing in my opinion for Lucid. So I'm definitely keeping it on the radar. One that I couldn't go without mentioning today is AI, and I actually see a pretty good trend line here, or you could almost call it a wedge or a flag type of pattern. If we end up breaking this to the upside tomorrow, we break above like 36.20, I will definitely look for more momentum. AI has been consolidating a little bit the past couple weeks, but remember, we had that big AI boom a couple weeks ago, so I'm definitely going to be watching for this one to recover back. If it breaks that 36.20 area, I'll definitely be looking at calls, especially with the setup I see now. This is a setup we've seen time and time again where if we end up breaking this up, I mean, that's a pretty standard flag type of setup there.
Sounds good. Gotta love those AI stocks. A stock I'm watching for tomorrow is SOXS. So essentially what this is, in a nice and simple way, is an ETF that goes up when chip stocks go down. So because we had that negative news with like Nvidia and the US government and China and chip sales and all that stuff, Nvidia and other chip stocks can be it's easier for them to fall right now. We'll say that because of bad news. So if they do fall, SOXS will pop to the upside in a major way. This is a leveraged ETF, so you do not want to hold this one for long periods of time because it will decay kind of like an option. But either way, I think the risk reward scenario is pretty good on this one. Some of these chip stocks are so overextended anyways, and if they flush, it can make for a pretty nice play.
Yeah, it really can. Like a couple weeks ago, SOXS had some insane moves. Like whenever Nvidia was starting to tank down there, SOXS popped up like 20% or something like that. So that's not bad. I definitely like this one, Mike, especially with that bad news for those chip stocks there with China and everything like that. And they're directly related to it. Then my next one has to be SPCE. Calling in the Space Cadets. Had to mention it. They had a great day today. They're going to have that launch coming tomorrow. Like I said, I'll have it live as long as the weather doesn't push it back or anything like that. Definitely watch it. If it breaks above $4.90, if you want to be really safe, make it break $5. But I love this stock. If it gets that momentum, definitely watch it. And I will say, if it gets a lot of momentum during the launch, there might even be a few halts or something like that on this one. If that's the case, be very, very careful entering. Trying to enter or catch something in between halts. That can be really risky. Sometimes when you come out of halts, the stock might dip down 5% or so if it's already been up, 10, 20% or something like that. Just if it halts, be a little, I'm just warning you, it's something that happens sometimes whenever these stocks get that much volatility.
For sure. Alrighty, Tom, let's get right into the momentum plays for tomorrow. And with the first one, we have Meta to the downside.
Meta, what's going on here? They actually have a nice triple bottom here today. Go ahead and make them break under 284. I've been watching this 285 level for a long time. Today they tried to break it, just couldn't really get down. So watch 284 to the downside.
All right, with the next one, we have SPCE to the upside.
Oh yeah, I think we've covered this one like 3 or 4 times. Go ahead and make them break above 490. Like I said before, if you want to be really, really safe, make them break $5 even, but I think $4.90 would be good enough.
All right, and then with the last one, we have AMD, and we need both directions.
Yeah, this one was crazy. It fell down a lot, but honestly, over the past couple weeks, it's pretty oversold on like a 5-minute chart. And I can't believe I'm saying that on AMD, but go ahead and make them break out above 112, just above the high of day today. That's a pretty big area there. If they end up falling down under 108.50, then look at puts. So 112 to the upside, 108.50 to the downside.
All right, well, you guys heard Tom. We have that downside level. If it breaks below that, we're watching it for puts. We have the upside level as well. If it breaks above that, we're watching it for calls. We have the upside level on SPCE as well. And then we have the downside level on Meta. So keep all these levels in mind. But if you guys are really looking to capitalize off of the current market movement, you got to check this out. So our bots crushed it again today with an awesome play on snow call options. The alert today went from $367 each all the way up to $663 each. All within just I think it was 20 minutes, Tom. It was actually really quick. In addition to that, you'll also get access to multi-million-dollar hedge fund plays every single day before the market closes, custom bots you won't find anywhere else, and you can chat with Tom and myself basically all day long. We essentially live in Discord, so yeah, you could chat with us all day long. It's the awesome program for options traders. Check it out. It's that first link in the description and the comments down below. You can cancel at any time. But Tom, back to the video, and it is now time for the big money $1.2 million trade of the day, and we are looking at none other than LEN. Essentially, someone dumped $1.2 million betting that LEN will drop. More specifically, they bought the 115 strike put options that expire on January 19th of 2024. For those of you who don't know, LEN is a home construction company. It's Lenner. Basically, right now the stock's at 125. The 115 strike puts are a little bit out of the money, but nothing too crazy for a put hedge play. I like the setup. The stock is a little bit overbought. Home prices have been falling a little bit, and I think the overall risk-reward situation is pretty good with this one. I could see this being as a hedge against someone who might have a couple $1 million worth of the stock as well.
Yeah, with this stock being up so high, I don't really see him shorting those puts. If it was down here, if the stock price was somewhere at 80 and maybe they were, it was the 70 strike, it would make more sense to me. But with us being up here at the highs like this, that's definitely interesting. So I'll keep this one on the radar, Mike. It's an interesting, it's just an interesting stock to me to see them running up as much as they are. So I definitely think there could be a bit of a pullback. It kind of reminds me of Apple or Nvidia right now with how they're breaking highs. And I know nobody's really been talking about LEN, which is interesting. So, but honestly, this has been a great move the past year or so for them. Since last July, this thing's been booming.
Yeah, so keep a close eye on this one. Of course, $1.2 million is nothing to ignore. But Tom, you're hiding something from us. We're missing a little bit of data.
Oh, yeah. We have the economic calendar and the earnings. So we had Micron report tonight. They actually did pretty well. Tomorrow, we have Nike reporting. So congrats to the Micron call buyers from today. Let's hope it closes where it is now. But Nike will be reporting tomorrow and after hours. And even better yet, Powell is going to be giving his speech. But I don't know, Mike. 2:30 a.m. this morning Eastern time. So be ready Thursday or tomorrow 2:30 a.m. Eastern time. He's going to be in Spain talking over there, so it's going to be very interesting. He was at a European Central Bank conference today, and that actually went pretty well. I'll say they had a lot of interesting questions. It was a pretty interesting one to say the least, but I don't know, Mike. I don't think I'm actually going to watch this one. That's a little bit too late for me. I remember earlier in the week you were like, oh, Tom, you're not dedicated enough. Come on, 2:30. I don't know, Mike. That's pretty damn late.
If it was an FOMC event, I think you might have to tough it out. But I think I can give you a pass for this one.
Yeah, I would actually. I might throw a party in the Discord chat if there was a 2:30 a.m. FOMC event.
Gosh, oh my gosh. Alrighty, so that is that, guys. I hope you guys are excited. We have a lot of great setups, as we talked about in today's video. This week has been awesome so far, so if you haven't had that same experience, join the Discord. It's going to be that first link in the description and the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe so you see these videos recommended to you more often. Of course, ask questions down below. But Tom, we have to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Janina T on YouTube. Huge shout out to you. Thank you so much for your support in the comments down below. It means a lot to us. And besides that, guys, let's end the week on an amazing note.